You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Good evening, welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'm your host Kev. You can follow me on X at the Dynasty Mind. With me tonight, we've got Ali, the main man. We've got the delightful duo, the best two of Fantasy Wildcard. You can follow Ali at FF Dynasty Grill. Good evening, Ali. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, Kev. Apart from the fact that it's just too hot. It's just give it a week, 2 weeks ago, everybody was moaning that it was too cold in the UK, and now suddenly it's flipped and it's far too hot. We're talking about possibly 30 degrees tomorrow, so that is just something to look forward to while I'm at work at my desk, sweltering away. But we are, of course, turning up the heat as well tonight for our show. And yeah, apart from the fact I've got a gammy eye, suffering with hay fever, apart from that, mate, I am very, very good. Happy to see you again tonight and excited for our show. How are you doing, mate?
Doing absolutely fine. Like you said, it's getting warm here in the UK, and I'm not a fan of the heat, if I'm honest. I know we get mocked by the Americans and other countries where they handle heat a little bit better than us, but look, we're not equipped for it, are we? I mean, as houses just insulated and keep the heat in, and they don't do a good job of keeping the heat out. So it's warm, and that's the reason why Mags isn't here tonight. He's definitely not used to the heat living up in Scotland. So I'm sure he'll be back with us next week when we're going to be keeping the heat really high. That's a tease, which we'll share the full information towards the end of tonight's show. But that is something that you do not want to miss next week. But before we get to that amazing show next week, we've got an amazing show tonight. Like I said, we've got the best two from Fantasy Wildcard, and we're actually wrapping up our Rookies versus Veterans series, and we're going to be taking a look at the wide receivers tonight. So looking at players very similar in ADP, in Dynasty startups, and deciding out of those two which one we would pick if we're forced to push the button on these guys. So we'll kick off, as we do near the top. We're going to come to Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's going to be facing off against the one and only Puka Nacua. So, Ali, who have you got out of those two?
Well, I have to say we're starting definitely rather spicy, because these are two players that, I mean, I absolutely love. Everybody loves. I mean, the hotness in Dynasty football is wide receivers. So if you've got these two on your roster, you're incredibly happy. And yeah, I mean, straight up, the answer will be Marvin Harrison Jr. And this is a funny one, because we spoke about these two into last, was it probably the start of the off season? Obviously, Puka Nacua is coming off his rookie record. Just an incredible feat what he managed to achieve as a fifth round pick last year. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in as sort of the biggest profile that's come in for a wide receiver in many years. Obviously, so highly picked in the draft, and just expected to hit the ground running in Arizona. I'm incredibly excited for Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair up with one of my favorite quarterbacks in Kyler Murray, someone that I've been buying a ton of last offseason, and even this offseason. I still think that he's undervalued. So, in a nutshell, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be the pick. Where I've got them ranked, I've got Marvin Harrison Jr. ranked quarterback 5 and Puka Nacua quarterback 7 in the same tier. So if there was a deal that came to me where someone wanted Marvin Harrison Jr., but they offered me a really good deal for me to tear down to Puka Nacua, I could be very tempted to take it, because I just think what he achieved last year was incredible in that Rams offense. I love pieces in this Rams offense, and I think that he's definitely in a position to smash again alongside Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp's not suddenly going to disappear. I think he's got another couple of really good years in him. There's news that he's now fully healthy, which is exciting coming into this season. But I think the tiebreaker for me is, who's the player that could possibly lose value going into next year? And the answer is going to be Puka Nacua. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. only has to show, and say like an average season this year. He doesn't have to set the records, but he also, you don't want him to disappoint. But if he just has an average season, 1,000 yards, or round about that, people are projecting him for a lot more than just 1,000 yards. But 1,000 yards, 6 to 10 touchdowns, he's going to be positioned and ranked exactly where he is now, if not higher. So if he was to absolutely smash it and get close to Puka Nacua's records next year, then you're looking at the overall Dynasty wide receiver 1 with Kyler Murray. So Puka Nacua, I see. Who would I bet money on scoring more points, fantasy points next year? Is Puka. Even perhaps in the next 2 years is probably Puka. But I just think that there's a potential outcome where he either disappoints or has a major injury, and he could be ranked 5-10 spots lower than he is now in 12 months' time. I don't see him ever getting to be the Dynasty wide receiver 1. I think he's probably ranked around about his ceiling. So I really like both of these guys, but heads up, I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. just because I think people absolutely love him. He's a massive name, and I think he's the safest player of the two, who could potentially be the Dynasty wide receiver 1 next season. So that's my pick. Kev, are you along the same lines as me, or are you gonna go against me in this one?
Well, it's always a difficult one, isn't it? Because I'm going to be disappointed in either Paul Picking or Matt the Weatherman here. So
true.
It's a great pick to make because I'm going to upset somebody. Just kidding. But I think a lot of the points you made, I do agree with. I think like Marvin Harrison, he's someone that has an average season is going to have insulated value. I think despite what Puka did last season, if he performs anything less than he did last season, or there's a significant drop-off, I can see his value dipping quite a bit because people will always have that 5th round draft capital in their mind. But it was an interesting thing you said about over the next 2 seasons, you think Nacua will outscore Marvin Harrison. Now, that's what I play on a 2-year window. So I do agree with that. I think Nacua will outscore Marvin Harrison. I think Harrison, his scoring to me over the next couple of seasons, it could be like Jamar Chase, where he had that amazing rookie season, and then it sort of was pretty good after that. I think he's going to be more volatile than people expect in the NFL. I'm not going to give him too much grief because I've got a show coming up pretty soon, which will give me plenty of opportunity to do that. Spoiler alert. But yeah, the way I'm talking, I'm wearing blue. I'm going for Puka Nacua here. I can't have Matt rinsing me anymore, can I? So, reason I'm going for him, like, broke the rookie record for fantasy points. First ever playoff game, 9 receptions, 181 yards and a touchdown. He absolutely crushed it. Like, it far outperformed expectations. And I took him in our latest startup that we're both in the Hall of Fame league we've got going. Marvin Harrison went comfortably half a round, maybe a little bit more over Puka Nacua. But honestly, if they're both on the clock at the same time, I prefer going for a Puka Nacua, AJ Brown. The big question for me is Marvin Harrison or Garrett Wilson, which Garrett Wilson's creeping up there, but just based on what he's done, that's more on what he can be than what he's done. So yeah, give me Puka Nacua. I was worried that I was going to agree on everything tonight, but it's great to start off where we've disagreed. Obviously, we both like both these players, but it is what it is. Puka Nacua. Sorry, Paul Picking. We're now going to move on to the next duel as such, the battle between the veterans and the rookies. The rookies, Malik Neighbours, the veterans, Chris Olave. It's really funny. I saw a tweet earlier today from Player Profiler, and it was highlighting this exact duel now. Complete fluke that I think where I'm going with this one, Chris Olave, out of that class where it had like your Londons, your Garrett Wilsons, Treylon Burks and Olave has actually performed the best for fantasy. Look at like best seasons and stuff like that. And he's going to be the guaranteed one in his offense still. So I think there's a lot to like about Olave. I'm not going to go too overboard because I think you might like Olave more than me. Maybe you got some nice words on him. It's coming a little bit. But Malik Neighbours is a guy that I feel has been disrespected this offseason in terms of startups, where Marvin Harrison goes at the back of the first, early second, and then you get Neighbours in late second, early third sort of range. So I think he's massively disrespected. I think with Neighbours, it's a chance to re-roll on someone like Olave that while he's ranked as a cusp top 10 wide receiver, he's not doing that on your fantasy teams. I'm really intrigued to see what is the next step for Olave, because he's had no competition and he's not really hit the heights as such. People can say, yep, QB upgrade will come in time over Derek Carr. Maybe, maybe not. Alvin Kamara's missed time. I think Olave is someone that's probably an excellent 1B. I think he needs someone else in the offense to really open it up for him. He's kind of a little bit like Devontae Smith in that respect. Both slimmer guys, I think both fantastic weapons in their own right, can have the blow-up games. But I do think the better usage comes where there's less pressure on them to do everything and be the standout guy in offense. Malik Neighbours, we just don't know. I feel that the Giants have took him that high. They've got to have a plan straight away, especially with a QB that's on the hot seat, a head coach that really did a great job year one, and then year two was pretty poor. So they've got to make this work. I think he's got to be in the slot for me for this to work. So this could be something where you ask me in a year and it's completely flipped. But Malik Neighbours, chance to reroll, get him in the slot, and I think he's going to do a lot of damage because the talent is off the chain. I think he's a higher talent than Chris Olave, and Olave's not done enough so far in the NFL for me to warrant him above Malik Neighbours.
Yeah, we are going to agree here, Kev. But again, it's a situation where absolutely love both of these players. Chris Olave is someone that I took in that startup that we had towards middle of round 3. Really like taking Olave. I think that I've personally primed him for a breakout. I think he's actually going to break out in a big way this year, despite having Derrick Henry as his not Derrick Henry. I mean, He's good, but he's not that good. Derek Carr as his quarterback. I love Olave. I love Rashid Shaheed as well. And a big reason is the new OC coming in, Clint Kubiak from the 49ers, going to bring that system in. I mean, the system before has been absolutely atrocious. They were dead last in pre-snap motion in 2023, I think, and 2022 as well. It's absolutely shocking. The Saints were last year so predictable, really didn't help Olave, and I'm just so excited to see, despite being a Buccaneers fan, what this offense can actually achieve and open up in 2024. So, really like Olave. Like that he's slipping a bit in people's rankings, but they've still got him a couple of places below Malik Neighbours, and he's sort of towards the top of my tier 3. He's only got Tyreek Hill above him just because we know what Tyreek Hill is right now. And then the bottom of tier 2 is Malik Neighbours. So I've got Malik Neighbours in that tier with Marvin Harrison Jr., AJ Brown, Puka, and Garrett Wilson. So really like Neighbours. He was, 1A, 1B to Marvin Harrison Jr. in terms of the rookies this year. And yeah, I just think, where they've taken him, there was big question marks on what the Giants were going to do, whether they were going to replace Daniel Jones or whether they were going to give Daniel Jones a massive weapon, massive upgrade. So they chose that option. Really glad that they did. And yeah, just really excited to see what Malik Neighbours can do in year one. We've seen how just productive and incredible he is. He was at LSU. Every bit like a Jamar Chase sort of type player that has that ceiling in his range of possibilities. For his future. So yeah, I'm taking Malik Neighbours. In terms of, I think Olave is going to outproduce him this year, but I just think for Dynasty value. I do think Malik Neighbours deserves to be slightly in that tier above Olave, just because Olave's not quite shown it yet, but I am banking on it this year. And Malik Neighbours, again, it would not surprise me if he saw 150 targets this year and, you know, had a really good season, even with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. If he's fully healthy, we have seen him be, you know, half tidy as a quarterback. And I do think that there is a possibility that Neighbours could possibly even be in that top tier of Dynasty wide receivers with the likes of CeeDee Lamb and that. You know, I think the talent is definitely there. So taking Malik Neighbours, but there's the tier break between the two. And for you, Kev, you're also taking Neighbours. So, I mean, is there a massive gap? Would there be a tier break for you? Would they be in a similar tier? And are we talking, a second round pick? Or is it as small as like a third round pick between the two? Is it that close?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that they're not in the same tier for me. Like, Olave is probably a little bit high. I think Olave is more in like a Drake London type tier for me. Even though he's done more than London so far, I think there is maybe a little bit of growth in London's game, or he's got plenty of fans in the community for what little he's done so far. So I think they deserve to be in the same tier. For me to move off Neighbours to Olave, it's probably going to have to be a second, like, at least. I think, it's difficult. I think I'm very high on Neighbours. He's probably nearer. He's probably nearer the next tier up than the tier down as such. So I think a second, but a lot of it's dependent on your league and where you think that team that's giving you a second is going to end up. If they're a scrub team, then you're obviously loving that. Indeed. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a big gap. If someone offered me a second and Olave for my Malik Neighbours, I'd probably snap the hand off right now. So, yeah, again, situation-wise, if I'm more looking for, being a competitor this year, then I want Olave with the thoughts that he was going to break out. If I want rebuild long-term, I want someone like Neighbours on my roster where I feel really good about where he is now. And just look forward to seeing what he can produce this year. Because again, a bit like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's got a lot of insulated value for the next couple of years, even with poor quarterback play. Because I think that'll be the excuse a lot of people will be, well, of course, he didn't produce the numbers this year because Daniel Jones was terrible. So I think he's got that insulated value. But yeah, between the second and third round pick is probably where I'm at between these two.
Good stuff. I know you've picked the two youngsters and the first two picks. I wonder if you'll keep on trend with this next one. We've got Rome Odunze versus Nico Collins.
Yeah, actually, this is one I've not even worked out in my head yet, which one I'm going to pick. So hopefully I can talk myself through this one. But I mean, just in terms of rankings, I mean, I could easily just say I've got this one over the other one. These are actually in the same tier together. So I've got my tier 4 is Rome Odunze right at the top. And I've got Nico Collins only 2 spots below him. There's only DJ Moore in between the sandwich of these two players. So, yeah, again, two wide receivers I really like. Obviously, Nico Collins has just secured a contract. So that's good. He's obviously tied to CJ Stroud, which the Dynasty community has absolutely blown their beans over the last 12 months. I mean, gladfully so, because I have liked him, but I'd never saw him being, the Dynasty quarterback 1 in some people's rankings. But yeah, so I really like the fact that he's now tied to him. I don't like the price you have to pay to acquire Collins. So he's sort of turning into more of a hold or a sell for me, because I think if you can get Tank Dell plus, that is the move that I'd make every day, because I really, really like Tank Dell. And when these two have been healthy, it's been Tank Dell who's had the big games. And then Nico Collins has really benefited from when Tank Dell went down injured and looked every bit of wide receiver 1. You've then got, obviously, Stephon Diggs coming in, which sort of complicates it for this year. Not really too fussed about Stephon Diggs, but I do think it's going to limit the ceiling for all 3 of these guys, because it's going to be 1 week, it's going to be a Tank week, the next week's going to be a Collins week, blah, blah, blah. But there is enough, there's enough passing volume there to support probably all three, but probably not one ahead of the others massively. So that's why I'm happy to tear down to Tank. And then in terms of Odunze, I mean, he's in a similar situation where there's three wide receivers there. There's going to be supported by the rookie Caleb Williams. Odunze is probably going to be the number 3 year one, but I have got him ranked higher just because that draft capital, top 10 draft capital, the Bears could have gone in any direction with that pick, but they went for the luxury pick, the best player available in Rome Odunze that was just incredible at Washington for this past year, absolutely lit it up. And yeah, I think long term, I've got him a couple of spots higher, but I mean, I could literally pick any one of these two guys because I think Stephon Diggs is not going to be long term in Houston, so it's going to be Collins and Tank Dell long term with a stud quarterback. And Rome Odunze, I think long term the future is really, really bright. I think he's struck a really good relationship already with Caleb. They're flying around together and bonding together. So I think long term he probably will be their wide receiver one. I think Keenan Allen is obviously a massive target hog for this year. DJ Moore as well is going to get his targets, but Keenan Allen's in his 30s now. I think long term Rome Odunze will be the wide receiver one. I think he's that talented. So give me Odunze, but I know what you're going to say, Kev. 2 year window. I reckon you're going to be picking Nico Collins all day long.
Well, it's an interesting you say that, Ali. I think first of all, like Rome Odunze, I think just a slight bit in the communities sort of exaggerating a little bit that it's not as good a landing spot as possible because of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Like in my eyes, comparing these two, I think Diggs and Tank Dell are arguably, if you're just thinking about next 2 seasons scoring, or definitely this season scoring, I think there's more competition there with Dell and Diggs than DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. You've got Allen that's come across, new team, new scheme. DJ Moore's only ever done it with one QB, Justin Fields, my boy. So yeah, look, Odunze's coming in with a QB, fresh slate, both rookies, probably have breakfast together. I really like Odunze. I think it is super close. There is a bit of a doubt with me and Collins, the fact that, look, last season he was brilliant. A little bit like a Puka Nacua in the sense that he far outperformed what I expected. But there is that doubt. You want to see it once again. And I think they've added competition. Stephon Diggs is a guy that's been a top 10 wide receiver the past 4 seasons. He's been a wide receiver 1 5 of the last 6. Again, I think with Diggs, people are going to exaggerate the end to last season, how he had that bad stretch to finish the year rather than look at some of the positive stuff earlier on. So it is tricky because I think Collins will obviously beat Odunze this year. But I know our good friend and co-host of the Wildcard Rewind show, Hannah Rowland, she was on, it was a Fields of Fantasy show this week and touted Rome Odunze to have a pretty good 2024. So I'm going to be going for Odunze as well.
Love it. Are you still there, Kev? I know it was an exciting argument to go through. No, Kev's dropped out, so we'll move on and we'll come to the next rookie versus veteran. Well, it's difficult to call this guy a veteran because he's not had many years in the league, but he's touted to be the wide receiver 1 on his own team. So we'll bring up Brian Thomas Jr., against George Pickens. This would have been Kev going first, but I'll say my piece first before hopefully Kev will jump back in. This one's very close for me just because I think George Pickens is someone that a lot of people are banking on for this year to be that wide receiver one for Pittsburgh. A lot of people are down about the Pittsburgh offense. I mean, including myself, the play caller, the quarterback. There's really not a massive amount to be too excited about. I think this offense will run through the running backs. I think this will be heavy dose of Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris. And I just think it's going to limit the ceiling for everybody on this offense other than the two running backs. So George Pickens is someone that has flashed potential, last year he looks amazing pulling off these spectacular catches, but then disappears for long spates in games. And it's not someone that you really want to bank on. He didn't really have the rookie profile for me as someone that I really want to take a lot of shares of. Got a couple of shares, but in non-best ball leagues, an absolute nightmare to rely on. But the potential is there. A lot of people are really, really liking George Pickens for the point where I'm looking to jump off. There's too much risk. He's not shown clearly enough to be that alpha wide receiver one. Obviously, they lost Deontay Johnson, and I think he was the target hog. So George Pickens could be in line for a super amount of targets this year. But I just think it's an offense that I'm not banking on other, outside of the running backs. So Brian Thomas Jr. would definitely be my pick here. Someone that I really, really liked. He was my rookie wide receiver 4, ahead of Xavier Worthy and Ladd McConkey, someone that I absolutely love. And I just think he's landed in the perfect spot, getting that round 1 draft capital. With Trevor Lawrence, someone that I'm not massively high on, but that offense was crying out for someone that could be the deep target. And that's exactly why they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in round 1, coming over from LSU, securing all of those touchdowns last year. Opposite Malik Neighbors, 17 touchdowns was just incredible. I think he earned every single one of those. And he is that perfect deep target for Trevor Lawrence. They obviously got Gabe Davis there, but I don't see him as much of a threat. Christian Kirk is someone that I really do like, but I think that Trevor Lawrence can easily support 2, maybe 3 wide receivers, but definitely 2. And I just think that Brian Thomas Jr., I've said that Christian Kirk will be the wide receiver 1 this year. And then Brian Thomas Jr. will look to take over that wide receiver 1, sort of heading into 2025. Obviously, he's more of a boom-bust profile, and I don't mind that. I've not been taking a massive amount of shares of Brian Thomas Jr. I've tried to mix it between him, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, just because I've got them all in the same tier. But Brian Thomas Jr., I just think his ceiling is higher than the other 2. I know in college the thing about him was a lot of people said he just runs the deep route. He's not got much in terms of his route tree, but I just think he's going to learn that when he hits the NFL in this offense that really wanted to chuck the ball long. And there were so many opportunities where Trevor Lawrence did deliver the deep ball accurately, but it just wasn't caught. So I think that's where Brian Thomas Jr. fits in, and I can see him easily. Would not be surprised if he had double-digit touchdowns as early as his rookie season. So that's where I lay Brian Thomas Jr. just over George Pickens. Wouldn't be a massive amount between them, and I'd probably have them in a similar tier. And yeah, if you told me who's going to score more points this year, I'd probably bank on Pickens, but long term, I'll be more risk averse. Brian Thomas Jr. would be the pick. So I will move on, and hopefully Kev will join me shortly. But we've got the next one, which is incredibly, incredibly tight between Xavier Worthy and Jordan Addison is the 2. Now this is difficult for me because really do like Jordan Addison. And Xavier Worthy, someone that really has grown on me, is someone that rookie profile wise, I can absolutely see the hype produced at such a young age. Really, really incredible how young he was. He produced in that Texas offense. But then he didn't really break out in a massive way where he has to be the wide receiver 1. I think I was comfortably had him as my wide receiver 5. But he's obviously landing in an incredibly exciting opportunity at Kansas City that's sort of crying out for an alpha wide receiver 1. I don't think he fully fits that alpha wide receiver 1 role. I think Rashee Rice done really, really well, especially when you look at the second half of the season and heading into the playoffs. He really did impress me and became that wide receiver 1 they were looking for. Well, he's been a bit of a silly boy in the off season, and there's question marks about Xavier Worthy and not Xavier Rashee Rice head into the season. A lot of people think that he's going to get 6 to 8 games. There's been rumors that he might not even get a suspension in 2024. And we've also seen that this Kansas City offense, the rookies don't always produce in year 1. It's a very complicated offense to learn. And, come year 2, year 3 is when they really put the foot down. But it's not always been the case where, we've seen a lot of rookie wide receivers come and go in the offense. We've also seen the likes of Juju that come in and they can't really produce. So it's a lot of people really love this spot. We're obviously with Patrick Mahomes, with Andy Reid, but it's also, I think, more of a risky spot where you just have to pay so much to try and acquire these guys. Jordan Addison's on the complete other end of the spectrum, especially when it comes to the short term. I think he's almost locked into that second or third target where you've got Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and you've also obviously got the rookie JJ McCarthy now throwing in the ball. Well, JJ McCarthy is someone that never had to throw the ball a massive amount in college, just because Michigan were sort of, especially in 2023, just winning almost every single game comfortably where they were running the clock out. He was just more of a game manager. But when there was times where he was asked to pass the ball to get him out of sticky situations, he showed that he was very willing to do that and was able to pull that off. So in terms of rookie profile, he, first round pick, the Vikings really did like what they saw. They were comfortable enough to not give Kirk Cousins the bag. He went to the Falcons. But yeah, that's where I just think that Jordan Addison's ceiling is just going to be capped. You've got the rookie that I think they're going to try and protect. I think he's touted to start after, I think it's the week 6 bye. I might have got that wrong, but I think Sam Darnold will be the starter. And I think Jordan Addison, he's obviously going to play second fiddle to Justin Jefferson. He's going to be the target hog. It's always going to cap Jordan Addison's ceiling unless Justin Jefferson goes down to an injury. And we did see that in 2023 where Jordan Addison came in and looked fantastic as that wide receiver 1. But the trouble is you have to rely on that injury for it to happen. Well, heading into this season, TJ Hawkinson is coming in. He's not going to be healthy to start the season. So whether he comes back for the second half of the season, we're waiting to find out. But it is a good opportunity for Addison. I think he's also got incredibly solid draft capital round 1. So this is really, really close. I think if I had to pick today and it was a start-up, I'd probably go for Xavier Worthy just for the likability factor. I think he's an easier move on right now in terms of if you wanted to trade him away than Jordan Addison. In terms of if I was possibly on a rebuilding team, I think Jordan Addison is a really good target to go after because he's someone that he's not talked about too much right now. There's a lot of talk about the rookie quarterback. There's a lot of talk about all the rookie wide receivers that have come in this year, not last year. And I think he's almost the forgotten man where people are ranking him too low. So I'll probably pick Jordan Addison on this occasion. I think this might be the first time that I've not picked the rookie. Just shows how strong a rookie class that this was. And yeah, I think I'll pick Jordan Addison. I think you can't expect too much production with JJ McCarthy getting up to speed in year one. But yeah, I think long term there's a lot of risk with Xavier Worthy, and clearly if there's a game where he pops off for 100 yards, 150 yards, the community is going to have absolute kittens. But I just think Jordan Addison's going to slowly rack up them points, and he's a very, very good wide receiver in his own right. So here I'm just going to go for Jordan Addison, but yeah, I'd have these two in the same tier. Next up, this one, I mean, I'm going to say it's not close just because one of these is a wide receiver I absolutely love in Ladd McConkey versus Jayden Reed. Now, I really do like Jayden Reed as well, but this one for me is clearly Ladd McConkey. I think I'm so excited to see Ladd McConkey potentially be that wide receiver one for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. Ladd McConkey, one of my favorite rookie profiles that's come into the game in the last few years. You know, I've got a Ladd McConkey jersey ordered on the way. Cannot wait to wear that and that powder blue uniform with McConkey on the back. And yeah, I just do really think that Ladd McConkey, with his amazing route running ability, he can play outside. He's not just a slot wide receiver. I do see that he will be the wide receiver one this year. Obviously, there's thoughts about his nagging back injury that saw him miss plenty of games in college. There's always a risk there, and he's being ranked really high. Wide receiver 29 on Keep Trade Cut currently, which I think Kev is going to give a good roasting to next week. But I just do think that it almost warrants him being wide receiver 29, for being that wide receiver one for Justin Herbert, an elite quarterback. Yes, this scheme is built up to try and run the ball, to limit the mistakes from Justin Herbert. So he's probably not going to be taking as many shots as he did last year. But I think that really plays into the hands of Ladd McConkey, just moving the chains, moving the sticks. His route running ability is just going to be amazing. It's, I'm not comparing him to Cooper Kupp, but it's almost Cooper Kupp-like, how he can just make defenders look absolutely silly. And we've seen just how productive Cooper Kupp was. I'm not saying he's ever going to be that, but if he's going to give you 1,000, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns, I can see him being a prolific wide receiver in the NFL. Really do like that in his range of outcomes. And look at the competition. It's not great for Ladd McConkey in LA. So I think the likes of obviously Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett, they've all moved on. Austin Eckler, someone that took lots of targets as well. So there's so many opportunities there for Ladd McConkey, and I do think he's good enough, and he's got the draft capital to fill that role. Jayden Reed, someone that the Dynasty community absolutely loves, but for me, he's someone that I think is going to be frustrating to own this year, just because I think that there's going to be competition there with Jayden Reed, and people who are expecting him to be the alpha wide receiver one are going to be very, very disappointed. And that's where I'm going to hopefully bring in Kev to the mix. Kev, welcome back.
That brings us to the end of the show. No, I'm just kidding. I've let you do all the work tonight, haven't I, Ali?
Yeah, mate. Well, I mean, I didn't mind because I've just been talking about Ladd McConkey for the last 10 minutes. So you've joined at a good time. And yeah, I mean, I've finished on McConkey versus Reed. I think Jayden Reed for me is someone that, I really like, but I'm just tempering expectations just because I think the ball's going to be sprayed around a lot in Green Bay. It's not going to be focused at one target. And obviously, Dontavian Wicks is a stud. So there's competition. If Christian Watson can get healthy, there's him that people really like. Romeo Dobbs is going to catch plenty of touchdowns again. The tight ends are there as well. So on McConkey over Reed. Kev, do you see it the same way?
Well, I've come back in good time because I see it the opposite way.
Wait.
This might be a little preview to next week's show, which I've teased twice now. Because both these guys will appear on next week's show. But yeah, I think for me, if you're talking about competition for targets, Vlad McConkey wins this. It's just him, and then it's my favourite guy, DJ Chark, which might have had a mention. There's Quentin Johnston, another one of my favourite guys that might have had a mention or not. And yeah, Justin Herbert's great. I think Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, I'd honestly say that's coin flip. Like, you can't say one's better than the other, I don't think. But I think what Reed did as a rookie was really impressive. Maybe a top 25 wide receiver, someone that was great in the short game. He added value as a runner as well, which that goes. They're the little things that add up. If he's giving you 150 yards and a touchdown a season, that's over 1 fantasy point per game, which people might not think it's a lot, but it's the little edges that get you over the hump. I think with McConkey, I've got a little bit of pause just with how good a prospect he is based on breakout age, production, injuries, etc. I think he's in a great spot to smash. So I think, personally, if you own him, he's someone to consider pivoting after a strong rookie season, because it's all set up for him to really hit the ground running as a rookie. And I do take the points on Jaden Reed, the fact that it did end up being a bit of a mess towards mainly in the playoffs, I think. Towards the end of the second half of the season, Reed was fantastic, but in the playoffs, like, 1 week it was Dubs, then it was maybe Reed for a bit, then Christian Watson was sprinkled in, and we're not even going to talk about Dontavian Wicks because he's had too much hype from every analyst on earth this offseason. JJ Zacharyson amongst others. So yeah, I'm going to take Reed on this one. I think it is close. I think they're in the same tier. There could be certain builds where you prefer McConkey to Reed. Like, if you've got Herbert, take McConkey. I think if you're stupid and you've got Josh Jacobs, you might want to go McConkey, because I'm not a great fan of building with multiple different positions, like running back, wide receiver on the same offense, especially in your lineup leagues. So yeah, that's where I'm at on Reed versus McConkey. I'm hoping you went Pickens and Worthy on the last two.
No, I went opposite. I went the complete opposite, mate. Can't wait for you to hear what I said. But
yeah,
the tightest one was Worthy and Addison. Absolutely. One wide receiver that everybody's talking about in Worthy, and then another one that nobody's talking about in Addison. So, yeah, I'm the opposite way to you. So that's pretty spicy.
Oh, God. I'll just have to give a quick little bit on those two then. So I think Thomas versus Pickens, like, I've been lower on Thomas in rookie drafts. I think there's more risk there than some analysts, Ali. I think Pickens could be really good. Now that Deontay's out of town, like, people say that he's not a great player, but he commanded a massive target volume, and people obviously worry about Arthur Smith. Again, I think if Thomas has a Pickens-like first couple of years, I'll be mildly shocked. I think Pickens has been very up and down, but I do think he was a better prospect than Thomas. So it's very close, but I'm taking Pickens there. I think the market, if he has a good season, I think people are going to get very, very excited about the highlight plays. So I'll take him on that. Then Worthy Addison, it's just more about, I see a clear pathway to Worthy being relevant when everyone's healthy. I think Addison will beat him this year, especially with Hawkinson out. And I don't want to go down this route because JJ McCarthy is also my boy, but if he's less than advertised and the other guy's got Pat Mahomes, I'll take Worthy as well. So they would have been fun debates to have in more detail, but I wanted a little rest before we come to the big fast finish. And as next rookie versus veteran, it's Keon Coleman versus Mike Evans. and it's going to be you to kick us off, Ali. And if you go rookie here, like cancel the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be. I'm going to let you speak for most of this, Kev, just because you've had your rest, and this is going to be super easy for me. It's going to be Keaton. No, it's going to be Mike Evans, someone that is just defying, father time. He's just getting, he's not losing any of his speed, any of his just route running ability. Someone that, is a big wide receiver, but he's sneaky fast. He's always been sneaky fast. He's Baker Mayfield's number one target. He's signed another deal for another couple of years there in Tampa. So, yeah, super happy for Mike Evans to stay a Buccaneer. Definitely would have cried if he'd have left. And I just think that he's someone that he gives you wide receiver one, overall, not in terms of the season, but every single week he can go off. And yeah, I mean, he's just super reliable. He's going to give you another 1,000-yard season and double-digit touchdowns this year. Almost nailed on, unless obviously he gets injured. So I'll take him over Keon Coleman. Obviously, exciting. Wasn't a massive fan of the prospect, but you can't not love the situation he lands in, and potentially could be Josh Allen's number one wide receiver, which is going to be peppered with targets, although I do like some of the other receiving options there. So give me Mike Evans, someone that I know is going to give me, fringe wide receiver one figures at least the next 2 years. And now over to you, Kev. And it's fine if you want to pick Keon Coleman, I will allow it.
No, I'm going to, obviously we disagree quite a lot this show. I'm going to be agreeing with you on this with Mike Evans. I think I'm surprised at that close in startups. I think, if Keon Coleman was to be the big slot and it's guaranteed and he's playing most of his snaps there, I think then it becomes a debate because there's untapped potential there, I feel. Someone that if, let's say they was in the same offense from a few years back and Keon Cole was in the Chris Godwin role when it was Bruce Arians, that's ideal for him. I think he's never going to be the main man. And I think he's got to be a big slot. Now, they signed Valdez-Scantling, which he's an outside receiver. Mm-hmm. They've got Shakir and Samuel, who are primarily slot receivers. There's Dalton Kincaid, who's saw a fair chunk of snaps from the slot last season. So it's not a difficult decision for me. It's Mike Evans. He's someone that he's not slowing down. And I think we're actually going to see a trend over the next year or two where these receivers that are hitting 30, 31, 32, they continue to produce. I think obviously the way sports science, medication, etc. is improving. I'm not shocked if Evans has another 2 or 3 really solid years. I think the same for guys like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, etc. as well. So don't be scared off by the old guy. I'm an old guy. I say that most weeks. Mike Evans pretty comfortable here. So I've done you proud. We're going to come to the last comparison, which is Adonai A.D. Mitchell versus the veteran who's in his third season, Jameson Williams. I'll kick us off on this one. I think it's really interesting because I think they're similar guys. I think they're going to be the probably fourth option, third at best in their offenses. I think the guys that are going to be explosive, they're going to be inconsistent. So it's difficult. With Jameson Williams, he's not been what people draft him as in rookie drafts as a late first. In startups as a rookie or in entering his second season, he's not achieved what was expected. People might put a little bit too much on that final game against 49ers where I think he had a couple of touchdowns passing, receiving. Not passing, idiot. Running and receiving. So it's a chance to potentially re-roll with Mitchell, who went later in his rookie draft than Jameson did in his, but obviously the value slip, they're pretty close now. With Mitchell, though, I kind of also think Anthony Richardson, is it going to be a mega pass volume offense? There's Jonathan Taylor, there's Michael Pittman, who we all like, there's Josh Downs, who did a commendable job as a rookie. What is the volume looking like? So it is a real head scratcher. I think they're both flex options in your Dynasty lineups. I think if you've got them in your flex, it's probably pretty worrying because you don't know. They're going to be in more weeks, I think, where they have 4 or 5 points and where they have 20 odd. So they are really, really difficult assets from that point of view. It doesn't feel great, but I'm going to re-roll with AD Mitchell, someone that's a lottery ticket. I think James Williams could make a jump, but I just don't ever see him ever being more than the 4th option. I think with Laporta being an absolute beast, with Amon-Ra St. Brown being fantastic, Jahmyr Gibbs, like his rookie receiving wasn't fantastic. I think there's potential more growth there in his game. So begrudgingly, I'm taking AD Mitchell. I think Jameson Williams, better prospect coming out, but we now enter in year 3, I think, with him, and with injuries, with inconsistency. Let's roll again on Mitchell and see if he can be the real deal, because at certain points in college he did show it.
Yeah, I tend to agree in terms of ranking. I do have AD Mitchell ahead of Jameson Williams, but in a similar tier of players where I want these to be my wide receiver 4 at best, ideally wide receiver 5, and ideally in a best ball league rather than a, start your own players league. It's just funny when you look at Jameson Williams, and I think this time on Sleeper, for the past 2 seasons, apart from when he was injured, it's expected to take on a larger role this year. You saw it last year, and I mean it's fool's gold at this point. I just can't see when he's the 4th target. I mean, you've been through the list of players: Laporta, the Sun God Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to catch a ton of passes. I just can't see where this volume's going to come from. But he's someone that I absolutely loved as a prospect. I thought that he could potentially be the number 1 in that class. I think that was the Treylon Burks class, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, really did like him. Really liked him as a rookie prospect, and he's just disappointed whether it's been from just himself being a bit of a dumb idiot or just injuries. But I like the offense. I love the Lions offense, trying to take pieces of that, but I mean, with that, it's just so expensive to acquire. So I just don't think the risk is probably worth it anymore for Jameson. I think it really is the last chance for him to show anything this year. Otherwise, his value is really going to massively drop and fall off a cliff from where it is already. So yeah, I'll re-roll with AD Mitchell in an offense that we do really like. Not massively high on Josh Downs anymore. He done okay. He done okay in year 1. Obviously, Alec Pierce is a stud there, but it's not quite worked. It's not quite worked out for Alec Pierce. He's going to be there catching a few passes, but not going to be doing much. And I do see a chance in a year's time where AD Mitchell can be that second target with Michael Pittman there as well. A lot of people, criticism of Pittman has been, they feel like he's not an alpha wide receiver 1, but what he showed last year was absolutely that alpha wide receiver 1, and
they're going to see this season.
They're definitely going to see this season, especially with Anthony Richardson. He is much better passer. The growth that he took from his rookie season looked really impressive, and then this year is going to be even better. We know he's got that shoulder problem that's still lingering, but I think we're still a couple of 2 or 3 months out from season, so there's time for that to heal and get 100%. So yeah, I'll take AD Mitchell, but yeah, I want him as my wide receiver 4, and certainly nothing higher.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say as well, like if Jameson Williams hits, I think his ceiling's higher than AD Mitchell, like just based on situation. Like we're not hoping this, but if there is a big injury to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Laporta, it's got to go somewhere. If he can command it, I think his value's got more chance to spike based on how, for a long time, the community stuck with Jameson Williams. I think if he shows any period of play for 3 or 4 weeks, people are going to be back in. They're going to want to get hurt again. So it feels strange that with AD Mitchell being this sort of floor ceiling, like so high, so low. But I do actually think Jameson's got a higher range of outcomes in a best case.
Yeah, I listened to a good argument recently. I can't remember who it's from, but they said, look, Josh Reynolds is not there now. And, he took a lot of the coverage away and the snaps away from Jameson Williams. But the other argument is, if Josh Reynolds is standing in the way of Jameson Williams, then, he's never going to break out. So, it's a good argument, but it's someone, like you said, if Amon-Ra St. Brown went down, obviously Josh Reynolds then becomes interesting, but he's not there now. So it would have to be someone like Jameson Williams they rely on. But, touch wood, he doesn't go down because I absolutely love the Sun God. And I've finally got some shares of him, so he's not going to get injured.
Yeah, that was Josh Reynolds' mum's podcast, and it's Donovan Peoples-Jones season if anything happens this year. Okay, so that brings us to the end of tonight's show, where I've done very little work. Ali's been doing the tough sledding in the middle parts. We've been looking at 2024 rookies versus veterans at wide receiver, picking between the two who we would prefer out of those. Quite a bit of disagreement this week, which was fantastic to hear both sides of the story. And like we say, a lot of these are very, very close in our rankings, in our thoughts as well. So hopefully it's been a fantastic series for everyone to listen to and take away their the sort of theory and the points on the various players. So thank you for joining us for tonight's show. We just have to, before we wrap it up, we have to mention next week's show, Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 9 p.m. UK time, as we do every Wednesday. We're bringing you what I would consider to be one of the most exciting and eagerly anticipated shows that I've been part of. It's going to be, how do we say this? It's been inspired by the GOAT, Tom Brady. We're going to do a Dynasty roast show where we're going to be griefing overvalued players. We're going to bring some comedy to the show, do some jokes, a little bit lighthearted, nothing too serious. Please, if you're offended, don't listen, because it's going to be offensive. But we're going to do it in a way where we're going to be highlighting the overvalued players. We're going to make jokes, but it's going to be insightful as well. It's not just going to be abusive 100%, although Ali's been telling me some of his material, and if you're easily offended, please stay away. But if you're not easily offended, join us next week where we'll bring that to you. So thanks for joining us. Follow us on X at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. Dynasty Roast Show next week, Wednesday, 2nd of July. Cannot wait. The spice is going to be there. The hotness is going to continue. Thank you very much. Have a great one. And we'll see you again very soon.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.